Today I'm going to rank all the albums by Alice Cooper. I have 29 studio albums. I will not be including any EPs, live albums, or greatest hits compilations. I have done this ranking before, but I decided to update it with the release of Road. I'm sure the order will change for some of these albums. I have 15 of these albums on CD and one on vinyl, and the rest I'll just put up the image on screen as I normally do. So let's get started. This will be from worst to best. At 29, I have Welcome to My Nightmare from 2011. This is an album that serves as a sequel to Welcome to My Nightmare. Came out about 35 years after the original and was one of his highest charted albums since Trash from 1989, making it popular. It was a good idea in theory, but it's just really not that good. I think it was too ambitious because he has all these guest stars, everyone from his original Alice Cooper band, Kip Winger, Rob Zombie, Kesha, a bunch of other people. There are a lot of different styles. The first song, I Made of You, has auto-tune. There's some pop on here. There's some country. There's a song called I'll Rip Your Face Off. He plays it live often, and I like The Congregation with Rob Zombie, but something has to come at the bottom, and it has to be this one. At number 28 is Zipper Catches Skin from 1982. This is the third album from his new wave or blackout period. Supposedly he was heavily using alcohol and drugs during the recording of this album. Ultimate Classic Rock described it as an off-kilter hybrid of the Knack and the Cars. The first single, I Am the Future, was featured in the film class of 1984, and it was the theme song. And The Waitresses' Patty Donahue appeared on the other single called I Like Girls. It's kind of a weird album. I only like one song from it. That's the main single, I Am the Future. I don't know about this one. It just never really clicked with me. At number 27, I have The Eyes of Alice Cooper. This is Alice Cooper trying to return to a straightforward rock sound. The album is just okay for me. A lot of songs have a pop-punk style sound, and you got the song Man of the Year. That's an example of that. Other songs have more of a classic rock vibe, such as the song Novocaine. There is a 70s style ballad called Be With You a While. That one's not too bad. It's not very memorable. They have the original version of Detroit City, which was updated years later on the Detroit Stories album. The best song is This House is Haunted. It's a throwback to the Welcome to My Nightmare days. And the song that didn't rhyme is kind of a dumb song, but it's kind of catchy. The album is just okay. That's why I have it ranked right here. At number 26, I have Flush to Fashion from 1980. So this is the first album from his new wave period. I remember when I did my last ranking, I had this album ranked all the way at the bottom. Since then, I have started to get into new wave music a little more, so it will be ranked a little higher this time. I like the radio hit We're All Clones. There are a few other good tracks. Aspirin Damage is a fun song with some interesting lyrics. The album has a lot more synthesizer use and still has some of his rock and roll sound, which is apparent on the song Grim Facts. That song was also played recently during his Paranormal tour. And the song Dance Yourself to Death was another rock and roll song that was kind of reminiscent of the Rolling Stones. It's a short album. It's only 28 minutes long. This one's not that bad. I think I like it a little better now than I did before. But it has to come in somewhere, so it comes in right here at 26. At number 25, I have Dragontown from 2001. This is his second industrial metal album. It's not as good as the one before it called Brutal Planet. That's going to be up much higher on this list. It's an interesting album. It doesn't have any singles for some reason. There are a few good songs. There are some songs that are kind of cheesy. You got the song Disgraceland. Alice Cooper sings like Elvis Presley. I thought that was kind of cheesy, but there are other some good songs like Sex, Death, and Money. That has a heavy industrial sound and a catchy chorus. I like the song Sister Sarah. It's pretty good. It has kind of that creepy and haunting vibe. And another one of those albums that has like a Christian and spiritual message. If you're into that kind of thing, it is, even though it's a heavy album, I do have it ranked kind of low. I don't think it's like that great, but it's I have it ranked right here at 23. Now, number 4, I have Pretties for You from 1969. This one I actually have from the CD box set. The debut album by the Alice Cooper Band. And I never could get into this album. It's just very different. It's more of an acid rock or a psychedelic rock album. The sound is all over the place. If I had to compare it to something, it's kind of like Piper at the Gates of Dawn by Pink Floyd, but Piper is much better. I've heard people say this is their favorite, but it just never clicked with me. Here's the back cover, by the way, if you want to check that out. I like the track Levity Ball. That's closer to that early 70s sound than the early version of Elected, which was called Reflected, and the other song is called On Billion Dollar Babies. Other than that song, the album is kind of forgettable. At 23, I have DaDa from 1983. Now, this is the last album from his blackout period. It's also a weird album. Supposedly, Alice doesn't remember anything about the recording process of this album because he was drinking all the time. Now, I've had people tell me that this is one of his masterpieces. For me, it's a weird album. For example, the album opens with a title track. It's this creepy, like, synth track. It sounds like could be from an 80s horror movie. You have this, like, little kid saying, like, da, da. That's really cool, but then there's some theatrical stuff and some haunting songs, like Generally Warmer. There's some new wave music, like the song Dyslexia. That kind of sounds like Devo. Has the early 80s electronic sounds. And I Love America is a good song. Sounds kind of weird. It's not too bad, but it just falls right here at number 23. At number 22, I have Easy Action from 1970, and this one also came in the box set, so here's the album cover. It's better than their debut. They started to solidify their sound on this album. There were still elements of psychedelic rock on this one that were on Pretties for You, but this is the band going more in the direction they would be during the early 70s. There are a few good tracks in this one. My favorite is Return of the Spiders. This is when the band kind of starts to sound like a hard rock band with that classic Alice Cooper sound. The album has a few other decent tracks, and it doesn't compare to the next few albums, which will be ranked higher on this list. Here's the back cover if you want to check it out. And let me go to a number, that's at 22. Now at 21 is Lace and Whiskey from 1977. Now, this is one of those albums I never really liked that much, but after listening to it again, I'm starting to have a little better appreciation for it. It has a better, like, front half. I love the opening song. It's called It's Hot Tonight. That has a great guitar riff. The album has a song Road Rats, which was recorded for the new album Road, and actually, when I did my initial review of Road, I didn't realize they re-recorded an old song, but then people in the comments let it be known that the new version was on Road. And this one also has a pretty big hit called You and Me. This was, I think, a top 10 hit. And there's some different styles here. You got some country music, some rockabilly. The second half of the album is a little more forgettable. It's still not too bad. And number 20 is Special Forces from 1981. This is the second album from his new wave period, also called the Blackout period. It's a mix of new wave and rock. Some songs have that classic sound, and there's a remake of Generation Landslide, originally from Billion Dollar Babies. I like the song Skeletons in the Closet. It's a synth-heavy goth rock song, and that would be a perfect song to play during Halloween. There are a few other good ones, such as Who Do You Think We Are? And then the song You Look Good in Rags is also really good song. This has a classic Alice Cooper sound. I think this album is underrated, and I like this the best out of his early 80s period. Number 19 is Dirty Diamonds from 2005. It's an album that was fairly successful, did well on the charts. The album cover makes the album appear to be a throwback to the early 70s, but the sound is similar to the previous album, The Eyes of Alice Cooper, but a little better. It's a straightforward rock album. There are a few songs that bring back that haunting and theatrical sound of the 70s, such as the song Pretty Ballerina. The title track has a classic Alice sound, and one of the standouts, the saga of Jesse Jane, is about a cross-dressing truck driver. That song would probably get him canceled if released today, although it's kind of funny. It's a good album. It's better than The Eyes of Alice Cooper, and for that reason, I have it ranked right here at number 19. Now, number 18 is Muscle of Love. This was the last album with the Alice Cooper Band before they broke up, and it's okay. I think they experimented with some different styles, and not all the songs are very memorable. I really like the opening track, Big Apple Dreamin', song about New York City, and it's a really good one. Here's the back cover. It's kind of like a package, the way they have it. So let's see what else is on here. The title track, Muscle of Love, that one's good. And then they have the Man with a Golden Gun, that was going to be in James Bond. That's another good, but also has some filler on it. Not as good as the previous 3 or 4 albums, but it's decent, and that's why I have it ranked right here at number 18. 17, Alice Cooper Goes to Hell. This is the album that came out right after Welcome to My Nightmare, and it's supposedly a sequel to it, but they changed their style a lot. The problem was on Welcome to My Nightmare, they had this radio hit called Only Women Bleed, and then they were kind of like shooting for another radio ballad, so they had another one called I Never Cry, which charted very well. It's a decent song, but this album has lots of different styles. You got some disco, and you have some songs that are strangely foreshadowing of like Faith No More's Angel Dust. There's Alice sings or speaks in a really like a low voice, and that kind of reminds me of like the Faith No More. But it's one of the weaker albums from the 70s. I don't hate it. Still has some decent songs, but I have to like rank it somewhere, and that's why I have it. It's at 17, so it's not that low. At number 16, I have Paranormal from 2017. This is one of those albums that the singles are the best songs, and some of the other album tracks are not very memorable, but with that being said, it's still a very good album, or a good later day album. So the best songs are Paranormal, Paranoid Personality, and The Sound of A. This album features 3 tracks performed by the classic lineup, Neil Smith, Dennis Dunaway, and Michael Bruce. Not with Glenn Buxton, obviously, because he died in 1997. Then you got some other guests from other bands, Lion Mullen Jr. from U2, Roger Glover from Deep Purple, Billy Gibbons from ZZ Top, amongst others. And there's a cover of a Vile Billy song called Holy Water. It's a good album, but I have it at number 16. And at number 15, I have Detroit Stories from 2021. This one came out 2 years ago. I did both a full review, and I included it in my last ranking. In that last ranking, I had it fairly high. I think I had maybe like 10 or 11, but it's going to drop down a little bit. It's still a good album. The others are better. This one has a wide variety of styles with a few cover songs and appearances from his original band members. I like Social Debris, I Hate You, Hanging On by a Thread, the song that was about COVID. Still a good album. It just dropped a few spots. And that brings me to number 14 with Along Came a Spider from 2008. This is an excellent album. One of the better of his later date albums. It's just an album about the serial killer whose name is Spider. I won't go into details about it, but it has lots of good songs. It's a hard rock album. It's also kind of like a heavy metal album as well. There are some guests on it. Slash plays on Vengeance Is Mine. Ozzy Osbourne is on Wake the Dead. I like this one a lot. It has good songs. I like the ballad Killed by Love. I like the guitar riff on Vengeance Is Mine. That one's great. They also have a music video of this. I recommend you look it up on YouTube. It's 10 minutes long and includes like 3 songs, so I recommend checking that out. And now at number 13, I have Road, the new album. I already spoke with this in 2 different videos already. I did the full review. I mentioned it in my top 10 of August. And it gets better with every listen. So it's one of the better albums from his recent years. I'm not going to talk more about it. I will link the full review to the end screen. And number 12 is Constrictor from 1986. This was an album that he made after going to rehab, and he came back completely sober. He changed his sound to an 80s heavy metal sound, and it's an excellent album. It has lots of good songs like Teenage Frankenstein. That one is played live very often. Through My Gorilla and Simple Disobedience. It has a classic heavy metal sound. It's a solid album. Start to finish, it's very cheesy. Probably one of his cheesiest albums, but has some really great guitar playing and sound. Also the first studio album to feature Kane Roberts on guitar. And we got Kip Winger. He played bass, and he would later be in Winger, obviously. And the only album with David Rosenberg on drums. This one also has He's Back, the Man Behind the Mask, written for Friday the 13th Part 7, Jason Lives from 1986. Overall, a solid album. At number 11, Raise Your Fist and Yell from 1987. This was another heavy metal album that came out in 1987. This one's really good. I like it better than Constrictor. The album cover is super cheesy, but I really like this album. This has Prince of Darkness, which is featured in that John Carpenter film of the same name. Actually, I haven't seen that in a while, but that's a great horror movie. And then Alice Cooper has this minor role. He's like this vagrant. And also the only Alice Cooper album to feature Ken K. Mary on drums. And second and last with Kip Winger on bass. So we got Kane Roberts on guitar. And we have the single called Freedom. Lots of great deep cuts. We got Step on You, that's a heavy song. Gale, one of those eerie songs. Roses and White Lace, that's an awesome, very heavy song, like almost like thrash metal. and it's just a really great album. Okay, now we're into the top 10. I have Hey Stupid from 1991, and this is the only one I have on vinyl. It's the second hair metal or glam metal album. It was big. We got lots of people on here. Slash, Ozzy Osbourne, Vinnie Moore, Joe Satriani, Steve Vai, Nikki Sixx, Mick Mars, and last with bass player Hugh McDonald before he joined Bon Jovi. Really lots of great songs. The title track, just classic glam metal, some power ballads. Love is a Loaded Gun, Burning Our Bed, and Might As Well Be on Mars. Those are great songs. And one of his biggest songs called Feed My Frankenstein. That one has Steve Vai and Joe Satriani with Nikki Sixx on bass. And the album even has hints of that classic Welcome to My Nightmare Era Alice with a wind-up toy that closes the album. This came out during the grunge years, but it was a pretty popular album and it still holds up very well. And number 9 is Brutal Planet. This is a great album. First album from his industrial period. And I bought this in a used CD store, and I've been playing it ever since. It's just I bought it here very cheap, even without a cover. It was released in 2000. Lyrics are very well written. They talk about different topics: domestic violence in the song "Take It Like a Woman," prejudice in the song "Blow Me a Kiss," psychopathic behavior in "It's the Little Things," and also regarded as a Christian metal album due to the messages conveyed in the lyrics. And for example, the song "Blow Me a Kiss" talks about how people should think deeper about spirituality. Some songs are very heavy, others have a dark and haunting sound. It's very good. It kind of has the same style as Rammstein, that type of music, but very heavy album, but it's just really great. And number 8 is Trash from 1989. This was his big glam metal album. You got the hit Poison. This was the first Alice Cooper album that I bought when I was a teenager, and it still holds up today. Gave it another listen in preparation for this, and it's a solid album. We got lots of singles and music videos. We got Poison, Bed of Nails, House of Fire, Only My Heart Talking. Lots of guest performances, including John Bon Jovi, Steve Bators, Kane Roberts, and he was on the 2 previous albums. So he was previously a member, but not in the band anymore. We got a few members of Aerosmith, and then some of the songs were co-written by Joan Jett, Diane Warren, John Bon Jovi, Richie Sambora, and John McCurry. Just a big comeback album in 1989. Still holds up today. Number 7, The Last Temptation from 1994. You might be surprised I have this up high, but it's just a solid album. It's kind of a weird album. It kind of falls between 2 particular periods, right between the glam metal and the industrial metal phase. Released in the mid-90s. It has a little bit of alternative rock, but I think it's more of a straightforward rock album. You got lots of great songs on this album. We got Lost in America. That one, you just got to read the lyrics. It's highly relevant today, addressing the state of society. Additionally, other excellent tracks on this album. You got You're My Temptation, co-written by Jack Blades and Tommy Shaw. Stolen Prayer, co-written by Chris Cornell and Alice Cooper. And this album also has Derek Sherinian. He's an underrated and underappreciated keyboard player in the world of rock. He's been in many bands, many albums. He's on solo albums. He's kind of like the superstar of the keyboard. And he's on this album. And this album is underrated. It doesn't get a lot of attention, but I think it's great. That's why I have it ranked very high. At number 6, I have From the Inside. This one I actually don't have on CD or vinyl. I need to pick it up because I have it in my top 10 and I need to own it. But I've had people tell me this is his last great album. So it's based on his experience in rehab. There's just lots of great songs. One song called I Wish I Were Born in Beverly Hills. That kind of sounds like a Kiss song. I like that one. The album has Nurse Rosetta, one of my favorite songs of all time. It has that very 70s radio rock sound, but just a great song. How You Gonna See Me Now, one of those radio-friendly ballads. It's a good song. I like the closing track, Inmates Were All Crazy, one of those classic haunting songs Alice is known for. Overall, a great album. Okay, time for the top 5. Number 5 is School's Out from 1972. So this one came out right after Love to Death and Killer. It's good, but does drop a little bit. You got the big hit School's Out. That's the most well-known song. A couple of other songs, The Gutter Cats and the Jets. That's like what's called the West Side Story melody with new lyrics. Then there's few good songs here, like Public Animal #1. It's a good album. It's short. It's like 30 minutes long or so. It has some filler on it, but it's really good. I don't have it ranked as high as Love It to Death or Killer. Those are going to be up higher, but still a really good album. At #4, Welcome to My Nightmare from 1975, the first Alice Cooper solo album after the band broke up. So this was one of the albums I bought when I was a teenager. I think it's a great album. I like it. It has a spooky atmosphere in most of the songs. Also has some hard rock songs like Cold Ethel, and then the title track's a classic. The Black Widow is really great, and this album has Vincent Price on one of the tracks, and it's just classic Alice Cooper. If you're looking for an Alice Cooper album that has that haunting quality with spooky songs, and it kind of goes along with like the stage show, like this is a great album like to start. If you're a new fan, I would say start here. $1 Billion Babies from 1973. I bought this album as a teenager, and actually this is from the box set, but the one I originally had I lost. But I really love the green cover. I think that's why I bought it, and one of my most listened to albums back then. I like all the songs. They have great songs, and it's kind of like a heavier album, like for the year it came out. It's kind of an early version of heavy metal, I would say, and you got No More Mr. Nice Guy, it's a classic. The new version of Elected, cool deep cuts like Unfinished Sweet, a song about going to the dentist, and another one, the Alice Cooper Band really delivers. Every song is great. I like the album start to finish. It's a contender for #1, but not quite there, but it's just a great album. So #2 and #1, I'm always like bouncing back and forth between these two because Love It to Death is the first classic album I ever bought. I was 18 years old, and it had the song On My Teen, really resonated with me. It's a great album, start to finish. And I bought this album, like I went to the record store, I saw this cover here, and it's like, I gotta buy this. I didn't know any of the songs, I just grabbed it because of the cover. But it has so many great classics, Black Juju, Ballad of Dwight Fry. Start to finish, good album. And then this is where the band really finds their sound, and where they start to put out good albums at this time, which you saw like $1 Billion Babies and the other ones. I go back and forth, but then this one also might be #1, Killer. It's one of my favorites. I actually didn't buy this when I was younger, but I listened to it for the first time maybe within the last like 8 years or so, and it's just a great album. I think I guess I never saw this in the record store. If I did, I probably would have grabbed it because I really like the red cover stands out. It has, I think, maybe my favorite Alice Cooper song of all time is Halo Flies. It's just a great long song. It's like more like a prog song. But then you have Under My Wheels. That one I knew from the soundtrack of Decline of Western Civilization Part 2. That one had like Axl Rose and Slash singing with Alice Cooper. That one was great. And just all the other great songs, Dead Babies, Desperado. This is just a perfect album start to finish. So I go back and forth between 2 and 1. So for this ranking, I'm going to put this one at #2 and this one at #1. Okay, thanks for watching. And as I promised, here is my full review of Road. You can click on that right here. You could also subscribe if you haven't. Just press that button right here. And like the video and comment and all that good stuff. I'll see you in the next one.